Merry Christmas, everyone, and welcome to this. It's not quite a midweek howl, but we are going to maybe do some howling with a very special guest for this Christmas episode. For those of you watching on our YouTube channel, you might already recognize our special guest if you follow along on our social media, which he doesn't want me to mention, but I'm going to mention anyways, just to make Nita happy. So while you're taking some time off for Christmas, after you listen to this and you want to find more From the Shadows podcast stuff, go find us on our webpage, fromtheshadowspodcast.com. Got all of our links to all of our social media, including TikTok, which at some point we will get our today's guest on and doing a funny dance, whether he likes it or not. So with that being said, we gave the howler the week off. He needs a couple weeks to recharge, but I wanted to formally introduce all of our listeners to the guy behind the scenes who makes everything possible, makes us sound good. He can't make any of us look good, but he does make us sound good. Our producer extraordinaire, Mr. Phil Garrett. Phil, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
which fits right in line with what we kind of want to talk about. We want to talk about Christmas movies today, and that's a great line from one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time, Vacation. Say hello to everybody, Aunt Bethany. Hello, everybody.
You did not tell me we were talking about Christmas movies.
Well, sort of. I did tell you. I said we wanted to talk a little bit about. I want to hear what your favorite Christmas horror movies are, because I know it's so. For everybody who's watching, can see just part of Phil's film collection. Okay, so explain to everybody just what your real job is. Your real job's not babysitting us, but what is your real job, and what do you do that makes you a film expert?
I'm not sure my job makes me a film expert, but that's fine. So I work at Good Deed Entertainment and Cranked Up Films. So Good Deed Entertainment is a film production and distribution company. We're based in Ashland, Ohio. We moved back there from LA in 2019. And Good Deed Entertainment is also one of the two brands or labels of the company, and that covers what we might describe as mainstream films. So dramas, comedies, documentaries, family films, animation, all of that. And Cranked Up Films is what we describe as genre films. So sci-fi, action, horror, thrillers, some very grown-up comedies with a lot of language. So I head up production and development there alongside Andy Myers, and we both have produced the original productions, the original feature films that we've been producing since the summer of 22. We restarted after COVID, and that's my job. So
that's your job. Now
that's my title. So
that's your title. But you've done a lot of really kind of cool things in the movie industry as well as teach, right? I mean, you've been a professor.
Yeah, lots of different things. Do you want me to?
Well, yeah, you're allowed to brag about yourself a little bit. I mean, this is a chance. This is a chance. We may never have you back on. This is a chance.
I don't know if it's bragging, but I'll tell you the story if you want to hear the story. So
yeah, let's hear the story.
Grew up in Ohio. I went to Ohio University, got into working at an internet company in the early 90s called CompuServe, which was the web before the web. Moved to Silicon Valley and had a career out there for a number of years working at startups in the late 90s, and got really burned out on that career, and was studying film and television, and had, through serendipity, had this opportunity to start over a new career at the age of 30. So that's how I got into the film business. A friend, her partner was the head of operations at a place called PDI, Pacific Data Images, also known as PDI DreamWorks, where they produced the movie Ants and did visual effects on movies for a very long time. I went there and started over as a PA, and had a small table in the mailroom, literally in the mailroom. Started in the mailroom, and after about 5 months, they knew that I was studying editing and knew how to edit, and so they moved me over to become an assistant editor in visual effects. So I was working on Shrek as a PA. Then I went to visual effects and worked on a bunch of cool movies. And my first screen credit was AI. So that was the artificial intelligence, the Spielberg, Stanley Kubrick project. My last film over there was Minority Report. And then they were closing down effects and asked me, they said, you know how to manage people and things. Would you like to come to production? So I did. And that's where I went over to what we call production, working on animation as a production coordinator, then supervisor, where you're really just organizing and managing the work of creatives. So first I worked in a department called the character TD department, which those are character riggers. So when you all see behind the scenes on animation and you see those wire frames inside that allow the characters to move and have their skin deform properly and their mouths move and everything, the people that put all that together. And then I got promoted to production supervisor in animation, and I worked on, we made Shrek 2, and we made Shrek 4D, the ride at Universal, and we made a lot of stuff for like the DVD and everything, where it's like American Idol, but it's far, far away Idol. We did Shrek on Barbara Walters.
Do you have a philosophy by which you live?
Yes, I do, Bibbity. If it smells bad, eat it.
And then I worked on Madagascar for about 6 months before we moved our family back here to Ohio in 2004. And
so sometimes late at night when you see the file from the Shadows podcast come across and you are getting ready to produce it to go out, you're thinking, I was on Shrek. What am I doing with these guys?
Well, I mean, you make choices in life that take you in different directions, right? So kind of think everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. So here we are. Moved back to Columbus, went to work for an animation studio there who had a history of doing direct-to-video Disney movies. So we did Fox and the Hound too. So you're doing everything that goes into making a 2D, traditionally animated film, except for the actual animation. So the sound is done, the music's done, the storyboarding for the entire film is done, what the characters look like. We call those character models, all finished. Disney takes that and they ship it off to the Philippines to Disney Toon Studios and have it animated. Then I got out of that, moved over to live action, started doing freelance live action production, produced my first feature film in 2006 called Horrors of War. So it was a sci-fi action World War II movie we made here in Ohio. And then over the course of time between then and now, it's kind of a circuitous path of freelancing. And then I started teaching part-time. Then I started teaching full-time. Then I got a master's degree and I moved on from about 7 years at Ohio State to another college, an art college, for 5 years. And then I went to, took a visiting position at a liberal arts school for a couple of years, and then kind of got out of the academics, out of academia, out of the academic business. So yeah, that's a whole other story for a whole other time. But along the way, this whole time, I was also producing independent films. So shorts, documentaries, features, off and on. When I went back to grad school as a non-traditional student, that means older guy. Did a bunch of theater work, wrote, directed a bunch of short plays and things like that. Did some work with an avant-garde theater group in New York City. So, so I found my way to Good Deed Entertainment, and that's where I've been for the last 2.5 years, making movies.
Which is kind of like, did you ever foresee the amount of movies and the amount of infrastructure that would be in place to make movies in Ohio back 20 some years ago when you first got started? Because I don't think people, I mean, I think people are starting to realize that, but there's a lot of stuff getting made here in Ohio. And I mean, not just in Ohio, because we have listeners all over, obviously, but in Ohio, it's kind of crazy how many movies are getting made.
Yeah, it's sort of, yes. And when I first moved back, I wanted to move into live action out in California. So it's kind of weird that it happened after I moved to Ohio. But when I really started going in that direction, there were people making films. There were people making shorts and doing films, still shooting on film, shooting on digital video, which was, maybe 6 or 7 years old at the time. And those first digital cameras, which shot what we call standard definition or small, it's much smaller than a high definition and 4K, but it would have, anything that we saw on TV, it was all looked like that. We didn't know the difference. But anyway, those digital cameras were the first generation of technology that really, aside from old 8mm cameras, that really put the technology within reach of the population in mass. So it really, we say, lowered the barriers of entry. So it quickly became not too expensive to get yourself a digital camera, whether that's shooting home movies or whatever. And so it made it easier for people who wanted to learn how to make films learn how to make films. Made it easier to put the technology in the hands of students. And for the DIY folks or the self-taught folks, it just made it easier for everyone. You democratized it. I think a lot of people saw the potential of that, but never thought, I don't know how many of us thought it would be where it is now. Seeing the technology advance. And I remember like when YouTube first launched and everybody was like, oh, this is fun, not thinking it would be anything at all. When I lived in California, I was going to school at De Anza College, and I had a classmate, and we were producing this talk show in the television studio there. And he's like, yeah, I just got this job. I'm doing customer service. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And we're in Los Altos where I live. And I was like, well, that's cool. What is it? What's the company? He goes, well, it's kind of cool. Like, people can rent these DVDs in the mail, and we send them to them. Netflix. And then they watch them and they send them back. And it's this company called Netflix. And I was like, wow, do you think that business model will really work? So, we've seen it go crazy. So once I moved back to Ohio, it's what I wanted to do. There were other people who wanted to do it in earnest. And again, there were some people who were making short films and so on. But as the technology grew, it also, what was happening in the world is that video exploded. And so the need for video exploded. So the access or the technology involved in terms of cameras, editing software, computer technology, all of that stuff advanced very rapidly. And now video is absolutely essential to businesses, right? Mm-hmm. Not just for video communication like this, but I mean, how many people are making their own content for social media, doing their own advertising, making their own whatever?
Well, it's killed print. I mean, it's killed newspapers. You don't advertise the traditional ways anymore because it's boring and not engaging, and you can get so much more of what you are selling or want to get across to people in 10 seconds, 15 seconds of video.
Well, those of us in film have always, I won't say everybody, but I've always thought that video communication, film, TV, video, whatever you want to call it, is the most engaging of any of the mediums because it incorporates all of the mediums, but it's also sensory, right? So you're looking at it, you're hearing it in real time, and it's just engaging you actively. Whereas if you're reading a newspaper, you're reading a book, anything like that, it's just different. It's not better. It's just different. And especially for those of us of a certain age who grew up with all of that, right? I mean, I don't know where I'm going with that. Just to say that the world needs it. in parallel to filmmaking, right? So in Ohio, for example, in the early 2000s and the 2010s and so on, the need for that evolved, the technology evolved, the number of jobs for people who knew how to work with video communications, and not just video, but motion graphics, animation, game development, all these different things. The need was there for people to they were creating. Hold on, I'm hearing a lot of background sounds.
Don't listen. Don't listen. This is what doing a podcast is all about. I mean, come on.
No, what I'm saying is your mic is picking up other people talking. So let's wait for a second. Okay. I'm just gonna leave all this in. I'm just gonna leave it all in.
Go ahead. I mean, this is on.
So anyway,
I can't tell. Listen, I can't tell my wife and daughter to be quiet. Have you tried to do that? I can't do it.
I thought in your house you had built an $80,000 room for yourself to put your.
That's called the kitchen. It's called the kitchen. Was not an office.
Okay.
No,
you need to save your egg cartons and line the wall like they used to in the home studios people made. Yeah. All right. So anyway, so this growing need for all sorts of companies, businesses, whatever, industries, to have people who knew how to communicate with video communications or motion picture communications, whatever you want to call it, it created jobs. And so suddenly you have all these folks either, again, learning on their own or going to schools of all kinds, 2-year schools, broadcasting schools, 4-year schools, learning how to do this work. Again, as the barriers of entry in terms of the cost of getting your hands on the equipment going down and down and down. So it's been interesting to watch it evolve over time. Some of us have been pushing the boulder up the hill here in Ohio specifically for 20 years. And we all probably have some small part in, as a professor teaching not generations, but years of teaching young people how to do this work, making films here and showing that you can make films here, being involved in film commission advisory boards and councils and things. So we all contributed in our own way, I think, to helping to grow the industry here, and also pushing for years to get a motion picture tax credit in the state of Ohio, like other states had for a long time before that. And so all of those things have come to pass. And now there are folks all over the state. There are production companies or producers that I know based in Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus, Crestline, Youngstown, Toledo, everywhere, who are making films of one kind or another, of one size or another, making amazing commercial work comes out of Ohio, music video work, animation, all sorts of stuff. There's a company in Columbus called Space Junk. They've been around almost 20 years now, and they make commercials. They do video game work. They do all these amazing things. And I've kind of watched them and worked with them in an early project. So just kind of see how everything went from giant production companies here, of which there were only a couple, to this boutique model, which continues to thrive. And then also what you see is a lot of corporations got smart and stopped spending money on consultants and stopped spending money on external companies to come in and do the work, and started hiring internally. So places like Nation, all the insurance companies have video teams. Ohio State has multiple video teams. Long story short, did I think all of this would be this way in the beginning? Not necessarily, but it's been quite a while to watch it happen and to be part of that. So.
Yeah, it is amazing. Like, as you're sitting there telling that, I'm thinking about, like, the very first exposure I had was being on the set of Shawshank when they filmed and they just came, and it was an amazing thing to be part of and see, and then they just left, and you're like, oh, this is never going to happen again here in Ohio. And then you fast forward literally 30 years, and we're all, we all have different, like you said, different little parts in what's going on now. And it's kind of cool to think back to see that and then to what is happening now. I never could have imagined. I wish, while I feel sorry for kids nowadays in many respects, in these endeavors and being creative, I think I really wish, as when I got out of high school, these sort of things were available and not thought of as crazy to pursue.
Totally.
I wish that's the one thing I wish we had when we were kids, when you and I were kids, that we didn't have.
Right.
So
agreed. I mean, I'm not sure how old you are, but I was born in 70.
We're the same age. Yeah,
but you look so much younger than me, Shane.
It's the healthy living that I do.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the healthy
Makes
living. It's getting out and walking in the fresh air.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so I totally understand. Wanted to study art in high school. Everybody said it was impractical. Went to college, wanted to study film. Everybody said it was impractical.
mm-hmm.
Got a business degree in MIS, right? Went and had the career everybody else told me I should have. And it wasn't really until my parents went to see the movie AI and saw my name on the screen and cried about it and that's the first time that they really, I think, understood this was a real thing. It's a real job.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, back then it was a much harder idea to grasp, because if you wanted to work even in video production, there were no companies that I remember in Springfield, Ohio.
Blockbuster, right? Blockbuster.
I'm an avid renter.
Family.
Yeah, but and I knew a few people when I was in college who had found their way to Los Angeles on their own, and were scrappy and got internships and worked on amazing movies, but it was just very different. Now I look at the classes of students that I had who are off. They're all over the country, and some aren't even in the field anymore, but the ones who are, they're all over the place. And one writes and produces Reacher. One develops new television shows and runs TV shows for Apple. When I was young, that was never a reality, No,
you never would have thought about it. So let's get to the good stuff.
Okay? No, okay.
All right. Anybody that's lasted this long into this episode, we want on Christmas I want to hear. I want to have a little discussion with you. What you think some of the best Christmas horror movies are? What you would consider Christmas horror for some of our fans? Because if our fans probably are a little twisted and probably do enjoy some horror. Or scary movies. Well, because I looked some stuff up because I'm not a huge slasher, and there's some great slasher ones. So what do you consider?
Okay, all right. So I would say I'm switching windows here back and forth to pull up some stuff because I'll tell you more. Segueing into something.
Okay.
So, I think the two classics, right, are Black Christmas, the original one.
Black Christmas, okay.
Black Christmas, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was directed by Bob Clark. Black Christmas, 1974. Bob Clark. You know who Bob Clark is, right?
No, I do not. Should I?
You don't know Bob Clark.
You're the film professor. I'm not.
Dude.
Who's
Bob Clark also directed Porky's. Okay.
Sure.
He also directed Porky's 2.
Okay.
He directed Porky's Revenge. He directed Rhinestone. He directed Turk 182.
Okay. All right.
He directed A Christmas Story. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So, wow. So he not only did one of the in your
Yeah.
opinion, best horror Christmas movies. He did one of the best Christmas movies of all time.
Yeah, and Porky's, the Porky's trilogy. I mean,
So for everybody listening, make one of these days over Christmas break a Bob Clark day. Start with Dark Christmas, right?
Black Christmas.
Black Christmas, and end with Christmas Story.
Yeah,
and everything in between. And it'll be now may not be able to let the kids watch some of the Porkies.
Those are really like summer movies, right? They're not really Christmas movies.
No,
they're really
those are not.
Those are like summer night movies. Like when you were a kid in the 70s and you go to the drive-in, you're supposed to fall asleep in the back seat, and your parents are watching a grown-up film at the second film. Yeah.
Yes, well, definitely. Yes. Now, Pee-wee.
There was a remake of Black Christmas sometime in the last few years. I have not seen it, but friends have told me that they took like the original conceit of it and turned it on its ear. And it's sort of this, anyway, it doesn't matter. So, but Bob Clark, and sadly, if I'm not mistaken, Bob Clark passed away in a car accident, untimely death there, but he left us with some cool stuff. I mean,
definitely.
Come on. And then I think after that, probably one of the best known in the horror community would be Silent Night, Deadly Night. But there are a lot more than you would think. Like there's a great Tales from the Crypt. There are a number of films out there where it's like, okay, a maniac, right, has escaped and is impersonating Santa Claus and chopping people up with hatchets, right? In fact, let me switch gears and we'll come back to this later, but Cranked Up TV is this new streaming service that we just launched, a soft launch of it. We have a number of Christmas movies on the service right now. We have
that are horror, Christmas and horror?
Horror Christmas. Yeah, we have Good Tidings. We have, let's see, Hell on the Shelf, like Elf on the Shelf. We have Silent Bite. We have a movie called Double Walker. It's a winter movie that was shot in Columbus.
Is that too old? Is that two old ladies trying to buy a Christmas present for their grandkids?
Double Walker. That's good. But no, it's not. It's not at all. There is a version of A Christmas Carol on here, a modern telling of a Christmas Carol. You know, it's one of those things like, what's great about independent horror is when you start watching independent horror, you're going to see stuff you've never seen before, which is exciting. And so it's a different take on that. And then there's this movie on here. I got to tell you, it's not what I thought it was. It's called Bigfoot versus Krampus.
Bigfoot.
Yeah, and it is this wild 3D animated space movie.
Okay.
Where the devil is in a spaceship and calls forth Krampus to fight Bigfoot.
Okay, since I have the Crank Up app and I can watch all these movies, I'm going to definitely go and watch Bigfoot versus Krampus. I've not watched it yet. Now I have seen Krampus though. I have seen Krampus. That's one of the few horror Christmas movies I've seen.
Well, you know about Krampus, right? You know about the movie Krampus.
Well, what about the movie Krampus?
So the movie Krampus
Yeah.
was written and directed by Michael Dougherty. Michael Dougherty wrote and directed Trick or Treat. Came out about 10 years ago.
Not the Ozzy Osbourne one, right?
No, the one that takes place in a small town. It's got a bunch of different stories that all eventually come together. Do you remember that? Remember that time? You know,
I do not. I do.
Yeah, check it out. It's Trick or Treat or Trick or Treat. Anyway, so Michael Dougherty, we have friends in common. He's a really talented guy. And he got his start at an animation studio in Columbus called Character Builders a long time ago. But he wrote X-Men, X2, X-Men United, Superman Returns, Trick or Treat, and so on and so forth. But the point is that he is from Columbus. And
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, so I do have a few on my list because I looked up. Okay. So you're going to be disappointed in my list because
Okay.
you're just going to call me soft. Okay,
Okay.
because Krampus was one. Now, Gremlins.
Oh yeah.
Gremlins would be my favorite because, I mean, to me, of course, that came out when we were in high school, but that to me is the kind of horror movie or scary movie I like because it's got a lot of dark humor and it's kind of funny
Yeah.
but I watched that not too long ago, maybe this summer, and I just forgot how much fun that really was. And to me, that's what but I wanted, now I did see a title,
Mhm.
because we were just talking about Popeye the Slayer Man, right?
Mhm, mhm.
But I saw a new title called "It's a Wonderful Knife."
Yes, I've heard of that. Yes.
Is that movie? Did that movie get made because "It's a Wonderful Life" was no longer in the public domain, or what, or what? So
No,
it's
no,
not.
it's not the same, right? It's not the same.
I don't know. Is it? I don't know.
No, I mean, well, I don't know. A wonderful. Let's look it up real quick.
A
Okay,
Wonderful Knife. Yes, a Wonderful Knife.
knife, knife. Yeah, so that came out in 23, right?
Mhm.
And that was with Justin Long, who we know from a lot of horror movies. Um,
Yeah, he's kind of made a second act, so to
she
speak.
wishes she would it was never born. Well, the thing is, like, the thing about copyright and all that is you can't copyright an idea,
Hmm.
right? You can copyright characters, you can copyright dialogue, you can copyright elements within a script, creations, town names, blah 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 blah. But you cannot copyright an idea. Yeah. So the idea of Star Wars in like something like the Empire versus something like the Rebellion. I mean, that was copied how many times? So the idea itself, um, and so yeah, it's anyway. I have not seen that movie, but I remember Gremlins, of course, and that's Chris Columbus wrote the screenplay. I mean, come on, and then Joe Dante directed it. So
Oh yeah.
the two of them together, I mean, forget it. And the amazing work on the Gremlins themselves, it's just
Oh
unreal.
yeah. It's fantastic. So I mean that's one that you could watch with the kids and they would probably appreciate it and it wouldn't be
Oh yeah.
too. Now I want to ask, would you consider The Shining a Christmas movie?
No.
Because why not? Doesn't
Where
Chri- doesn't Christmas don't they have a Christmas tree in the apartment up there?
I mean, maybe they do, but it is in no way is it a featured element. It's like the conversation about Die Hard. Well, Die Hard, from
Die Hard's on my list of
the music, the decor, the set decoration, some of the dialogue. Um, I mean, yeah, Christmas is incorporated in that movie in many ways. It's not the same with The Shining, but I understand why you would ask that question.
I just wondered
And
what a
that's just my opinion, Shane, which
I
is worth
know.
everything he paid for it.
I know. I know. I know. So horror aside, what are some of your go-to Christmas movies? Like what's your top five? What's your go-to ones?
Well, I mean, some aren't really, I guess they're movies, but you might say that they're short movies, like, the things I grew up with and the things my kids grew up with, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer,
Mhm.
Frosty the Snowman. And you look back at that now, you're like, it's kind of, I don't know, man. It's just so like, I don't know. Anyway, Frosty. No, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. We have a lot of fun with the Baby New Year movie.
Oh yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's so silly. And Rudolph and things like that. But of course, Christmas Vacation, um, and A Christmas Story, and there are some that I remember from when I was young, but I can't remember the titles right now. But we really don't want to watch those so much. I mean, and there's Elf too, which I think my son is on Elf overload from those 24-hour marathons and whatnot. But like, so yeah. I mean, Rudolph, Christmas Vacation, A Christmas Story, Elf, and of course my favorite is It's a Wonderful Life.
Now, I have a friend that he and I like to put forth an argument that one of the best Christmas movies that is not traditionally considered a Christmas movie is Funny Farm with Chevy Chase. Because for all those you need to go out and watch this movie right away. This is a great one from the 80s. But at the end is during Christmas, and they pay everybody to bring Christmas. Like we think that deserves to be up there as one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time. I could tell by the look on your face. It's the same look you give me when I tell you how much I love The Burbs.
Well, no, I get The Burbs. The Burbs is good. I still have something we'll come back to The Burbs. We'll talk about that in a minute. I still have something for you from that. I don't know, man, if you want to say so. And then I could call Baby Boom a Christmas movie, I suppose. I don't know. I know what you're saying, but anyway. So,
well,
I've never seen Funny Farm. All I know is there is a dog that won't come to them.
What? You've never seen Funny Farm?
But I feel like Problems, but so I haven't seen it.
I feel like you would understand me so much better if you'd seen like Funny Farm and stuff. Which I started writing an idea down about. It would make a really cool like dark series called Rosebud. Because Rosebud is the town that Chevy Chase and those guys moved to.
Of course it is.
Yeah, it's called Rosebud. But they can't find it. The movers can't find it. Okay. And so my idea was, what if once you get to Rosebud, you can't get out? And why can't I don't want to give it away. Somebody will steal that idea.
I wonder, if you call it Rosebud, everybody's going to think that it's an homage to Citizen Kane. So,
No, because the one guy who I would actually, what's funny is when I started writing this idea, the one guy who was the mover in Funny Farm was working on the one movie of your buddies. Oh gosh, I can't think of the name, but was it the Horton guy? The one movie, it was
Jason Horton.
Was it a guy you knew was making a movie? And this guy was going to be one of the stars in it.
And what is his name?
I can't. I'll have to.
Okay.
You're gonna make me look it up.
No, it's fine. Keep going. Let's move on.
I would love to hear from our fans, like what's some of their favorite Christmas horror movies and just favorite Christmas movies. Yeah,
sure.
Because I'm sure there's stuff that we haven't thought of.
Yeah, let's see in the comments. And most people probably, if they listen to this at all, if they're on this long on this recording, if they're not bored as heck by now.
Hey, Glenn Plummer.
Comments. Glenn Plummer, yeah, of course.
Yeah, Glenn Plummer was the move. He was the mover.
Okay.
With the one guy from Dumb and Dumber, who died eating the hot pepper.
Yeah, I know who you're
Mike
talking
Starr.
about.
Was it Mike Starr? Is that his name?
You tell me. Maybe.
I think it was his name. And they were the movers. It was good. You gotta watch this movie.
Glenn Plummer's been in a couple of Jason's films. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was the guy I thought would be the, who finally came back to the town and then couldn't get out.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was a great idea. Trust me.
Yeah. So, okay. It sounds great. So what's your next question, sir?
I don't have, you know what? I don't have any more questions. I want to hear more though. I want you to tell everybody though, where they can, I want to talk about the streaming service that you guys have, because I think people want to go see Bigfoot versus Krampus. How could they not? How could they? How can they go watch that? How can they get the streaming service?
That's a good question. The streaming service is called Cranked Up. You can access it through the web on crankeduptv.com. The apps that are live right now are for Android TV, Roku, Fire Stick, or Fire TV. We have an Apple app up on the App Store. We just did this soft launch just to get the service up and running on Black Friday. You can go online, crankeduptv.com. If you sign up through the web, there is a promo code you can put in, Get Cranked 30, that gives you a 30-day free trial. So it'd be good to go and try it out. Right now, I think we have 150 films up. We have a whole new batch coming in January, and then we'll be loading new films onto the service every week. We have it's a real mix of contemporary films that, some have just come out. Some have been out a few years. Some are what we would consider modern classics, films in the last 30 years or so. We have others that are classics ranging from black and white films, fun stuff like Roger Corman stuff, to even like The Changeling, that George C. Scott film, which if you haven't seen that, you should check it out. I think one that I was really most excited about is it was from 1981. Do you remember Dark Knight of the Scarecrow?
Is that the one where the kid was hiding in the Scarecrow?
Character he was on LA Law. I can't remember the name of the actor right now. He was in Darkman. He was the Scarecrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a terrifying. I remember watching that as a kid. Oh my gosh.
We have the special edition of that online, and in my special edition it's in 4K. So you can stream it in 4K with a subscription, and it's in 5.1. It's awesome. We have a couple of other special editions on there, like some anniversary, like 50th anniversary of Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. And, so like fun stuff like that. We have some Dario Argento and Bava classics like Demons and Demons 2. But so we try to, as a horror streaming service, you want to really, the whole goal of it, like, look, we started as fans. We grew up with this stuff. Where you grew up. We used to get Channel 43.
Oh yeah.
We used
Big Chuck and Little John and all that stuff.
Superhost Saturday mornings with horror and all that stuff. And then we became filmmakers, and then Scott started the distribution company, and we want the service to be the kind of service we would want to see. So this mix of from the history of horror. And then what we'll be adding in 25 is exclusive content. So we're working on nonfiction programming. So this is like people coming on and doing programs about film or about makeup effects. Or
is this conversation going to be a feature? Our conversation about film, is it going to be?
So anyway, but. We want to have people who are, people who from the world of horror who can introduce films and give a little bit of history and context and so on, to give us more than just the film. Yeah. We have the ability to add special features and extras and things on our service. So it's like what you get on a Blu-ray or DVD, we can replicate that on. Replicate. See what I did there? Replicate.
No. I was just getting ready to say this. So this is the one place that you can right now watch Replicator, right?
Well, you can.
And for those who don't know, that is a new sci-fi kind of horror movie that the judge has this big acting debut in. Yeah. All my parts got cut, but the judge has a great, and Phil has a not to give anything away, has a kind of creepy, eerie part in it too.
It's done.
What are you gonna do? With a face like this? I mean, come on.
It's done. It's done. It's done.
I think you're doing the most that you can. The most you can.
Giving hope to middle-aged, heavy-set, Midwestern guys all over the place. Giving hope to them all. So Replicator, I can cut the trailer in here. So I'll tell just real quick, fans. Yeah, the judge was great.
Now listen here, this isn't law school anymore, and I will not be challenged in my courtroom, especially by someone who can't even lay the foundation for their own evidence. Let me explain something to you. The difference between our justice system and the rest of this world is that we actually have rules, and in my courtroom, we follow those rules. Do you understand me?
Yes, Your Honor. But there must be justice for this man's actions.
Then bring me some evidence that we can actually use to convict him.
The judge plays the judge, and he was a consultant on the dialogue, and the judge does a great job in his scene. And Shane is in the scene. Shane gets to walk across. He walks across the screen. But most of the time, for you of those of you on YouTube, most of the time it's Shane from like here up behind a desk. So he missed his.
Can I replicate that?
Well, I asked Shane, folks. I asked him, "Hey, Shane, you showed up in jeans, but you're a bailiff." And he's like, "Well, have you ever been to a real court?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, that's what they wear." I said, "Yes, but this is a movie." So,
but we want it to be as real as possible.
Do we really? Do we want that in a movie with tentacles? Okay,
we do.
Right.
We do.
Okay. So anyway,
wardrobe budget was very limited on this.
I'll cut the trailer in here, and guys, watch the trailer, and then come back.
Let me guess, court decision didn't go your way.
Well, yeah, there's that, too. Dad called me last week.
Shut up. What did he say?
Good morning, dear. From now on, I'm gonna be the father you deserve.
I don't even know who the real Ron is anymore.
We'll get this figured out.
It's your job. You're right this time.
After I took all the organs out of the body, I couldn't get them all back in.
This one really has us stumped. A lot of peculiar pieces to put together.
Ron's dead. What? How? Yeah, I don't know. That's what we're trying to figure out. Some disgusting disease. It's not contagious or anything, right?
She is everything. And everywhere, you just have to know how to listen for her voice. Ron hurt me in ways that I can't even describe.
You deserve to be tried in a court of law, because that is the world that we live in.
Kind of jumpy, aren't you? No, sister. We're a family now. This should be interesting.
So hope you like the trailer. But yeah, so that is the fifth movie we've released this year. The fifth movie we shot. We shot 7 films in 22 months. We released a trilogy of films earlier this year in August and September called Fresh Hell. And that was 3 films called The Exorcism of St. Patrick, Wolves Against the World, and Dead Teenagers. And for those who are familiar with the show, have ever heard or seen Chris Hahn, Chris helps supervise all the stunt work on all these films and is in some of these films. In Dead Teenagers, he plays like a Jason Voorhees type. And he has an important role in Replicator.
Yes, he does. Yeah, he does.
We also released a romantic comedy a few weeks ago called The Holiday Club. And then no, I haven't got to see The Holiday Club. Did I make the cut? I don't know. You have to rent it and see. I got to rent it and see. Yeah. Holy smokes. Golly. Okay. So now we will have a screening in Ashland after the first of the year. And then we have 2 more that are in post-production. One is called Wormtown, which is this really just great film. I think people are really going to like it. There's a lot of action and gross worm stuff, and it's just very cool. It's like, what is a post-apocalyptic kind of scenario, but through the viewpoint of a small city like Ashland. And then after that is Blood and Rust, which is It is a movie that looks and feels like it would have come out around the time of when John Carpenter was doing a lot of his classics, and George Romero and Tom Holland and other horror makers, Wes Craven, like back in the 80s. It looks and feels like a movie like that, and it is a town called Red Patch, not Ashland. That is a Rust Belt town that's on its last legs, gets invaded by a coven of vampires, or a hive of vampires.
As all towns on their last leg deserve.
I don't know if they deserve it, but it is what it is.
Or is it on its last leg because of the vampires?
I don't know. And then we start shooting. Our next production in March is called The Chamber, which is a supernatural psychological thriller that's very intense. And then we have another movie we're waiting. We've got to get a new draft in, but it is a holiday horror movie. So I won't say what it is right now. I don't want to jinx it, but that may be happening next year. And potentially one or two more good deed entertainment type holiday movies. So, and then we're reading scripts and taking pitches and things right now for whatever horror movies come beyond that. But yeah, and making movies here in Ohio is really great in lots of ways, and getting the support of the city that we live in has been had an immeasurable impact on what we do. Yeah, so it's good. Mm-hmm.
Well, anybody who's listened to us ramble on this long, thanks for taking time out of your Christmas to hang out with us. We hope we gave you some good recommendations for films. Phil will invariably put up links to Cranked Up,
of course,
because that's what he does. That's what he does. And so go check out Cranked Up. And if anybody, I'm going to go watch Bigfoot versus Krampus. I want to hear what everybody else thinks. I want you to go watch Bigfoot versus Krampus.
Let me give you some recommendations real quick here. So again, crankeduptv.com, shameless plug. Some new additions. You'll be happy to know, Shane, that Abominable is on.
Okay.
So let's see here. Let's take a look. Some cool movies. The Changeling, like I said, there's a movie called A Most Atrocious Thing about a zombie elk or zombie deer. You'll love it. It's really fun and over the top.
Okay.
A couple of movies by the guys Benson and Moorhead, who have gone on to direct shows like Moon Knight, a movie called Spring, a movie called Resolution. There's a movie called The Old Ones, which is a Lovecraftian crazy movie. Hayride to Hell, that has both Bill Moseley and Kane Hodder.
Oh, okay. There you
go. Pig Killer is based on a true story of a gentleman who
I watched the trailer on that, and I was like, ooh, this is kind of
Jake Busey. So when you go to the site and you look at browse, or it may change the now playing, but browse, you see all these different categories. There's some Cranked Up releases. Squeal is a movie that is just really very, very cool. It's kind of more like a thriller, but it's also like in a grown-up fairy tale. It's kind of funny. It's kind of thrillery. It's some action stuff, but that's fun. Dude Bro Party Massacre 3, 15 Things I Didn't Know About Bigfoot.
Which I have seen that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff on here. If you like sci-fi horror, there's some really cool things. Foil is a newer release of ours. There's just a bunch of really cool stuff, man. And you said early on about Replicator we can watch on there. You can, but Replicator is available in a lot of places. It's available on Apple, it's available on Amazon, it's available on Fandango at home. More of those to come. So you can buy it or rent it anywhere. So you can rent it on crankeduptv.com, but you can't. It's not yet released onto what we call SVOD, or streaming video on demand, or subscription-based video on demand. But that'll be coming soon in 25. But a lot of classics, like I said. There's a vampire section here. There's anthologies. Just check it out. It's fun. And it's cheap. I mean, it's a really good priced service with the 30 days free. You can see the whole library of stuff. And after that, it's $5.99 a month or $49.99
It's like a
year.
coffee, like one coffee. You can get access to all these movies.
You said it, pal.
That's a bargain, man. That is a bargain.
That is a bargain.
Well, Phil, thank you. Thanks for being such an integral part of the show. Keep taking care of everything behind the scenes. You've kept everything moving right along, reluctantly or enthusiastically. It just depends on the day. And I appreciate you hanging out. And hopefully people will go check out this new streaming service, check out some of the movies, and maybe learn some stuff about the movie business in Ohio.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I hope so. And yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. And the show From the Shadows podcast. The show is it's just very cool because it is totally in the spirit of what we do with filmmaking too. It's independent. We do it because we love it as much as anything else. I really love that on From the Shadows, people get to come on and share their stories, and I've seen the impact on people who've been holding back these secrets for their whole life, to see how cathartic it is for them. And it's a lot of fun. I got to meet a lot of cool people. Looking forward to Monster Fest this year. And isn't that what it's called? Monster Fest?
Monster Fest,
yeah.
And so at some point we will have to dig into your long held secrets of what you're hiding back too, with some of your experiences.
Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see. But yeah, we should do another one like this where we focus on movies about cryptids.
Ooh, okay. I like that idea.
We have a Bigfoot category, and so we're going to roll out some stuff there. Bigfoot, there's Bigfoot versus zombies, Bigfoot's bride, Bigfoot exorcist. You'll love it the most. You'll dig it the most. It's very
some interesting stuff. Well, yeah. Go check it out at Cranked Up Films, and let us know what you think, and do it. I mean, you get it for the first month for free. 30 days for free. What's that going to hurt? At least go check it out.
I ask myself that same question every day.
Say, what's it going to hurt? But you still get out of bed.
It's true.
All right. Thanks again, Phil.
Thanks, Shane. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.
God only knows what time.